think our minds can't really wrap our head around the fact that we can't please everyone. Take yourself back to when you won Big Brother Canada. When you got that high, how would you deal with it now? Right, like let's say as soon as you win, right, you get this all this validation, all this love and embrace. What would you tell yourself now if that was to happen again? To bring yourself to even keel.
I would tell myself, enjoy the moment, live in this moment. I think what was so hard about the Big Brother moment for me was that I was living in the future. I was living in anxiety. I was like, well, what am I gonna do next? Everybody's asking me what's next. What's gonna happen when people start forgetting about me? What am I gonna do? How do I hold on to this? Like, it was just so many thoughts that were in the future rather than just being like, yo, proud of myself. I love myself. That was dope. Let's enjoy this summer. Let's just enjoy this. It didn't feel like enjoyment. And I think that's the difference. If I was to do it all over again, I would just live in the now.
You felt like since you won, now you have to build on it. Now there's more eyes on you. You have to impress more people. And well, okay, what's up with Tychon now? So he won now? Okay, well, what is he doing now? Type shit.
Yeah, strike while the iron's hot. You ever heard that quote? Mm-hmm. I heard that 1,010,000 times after I won. You gotta strike while the iron's hot. You gotta capitalize on this. It's not like anybody was giving me a blueprint. People had ideas, but it's just like, I didn't plan to win. So I didn't have a plan. It wasn't like, I'm gonna go on Big Brother, I'm gonna win, and this is what I'm gonna do. There's people that do that. But I just went on for the fun of it. Again, it was like an in the moment type of decision. Okay, yeah, you guys want me to be on the show? Okay, I'll be on the show. I never watched the show. I didn't know what to expect. But I win, and I'm like, oh. And I realized people care. There's fans. There's people that recognize me on the street. Oh my God, my son loved you, my daughter loved you. I didn't know that's what it was. So it was like, after seeing that, I was like, oh shoot, this is a big deal. I need to do something big with it. But I didn't know what it would be.
Does that attention fade? That feeling of, oh my God, like my son, my daughter loves you. I loved you in that show. You were my favorite. Does that slowly fade?
Of course. People have a recency bias. It's kind of like, what have you done for me lately? And it's like in the media, people, they have short memories. Do people still come up to me? Absolutely. But it wasn't like when I first came off the show. When I first came off the show, it's like I couldn't really go anywhere without someone saying hi. Now there's people that may recognize me. They might not say anything. It still happens from time to time. But it's like at the height of it, it's like, it's a dopamine hit. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's you, it's you. And then as time goes by, that starts to die off slowly. And if you're not careful with preparing yourself for that mentally, it can be very painful. I think it was a little bit painful for me, but it wasn't as painful as it could have been had I not known this is the reality of how it goes. And I think this is a problem that like many people who are in the public eye face, like celebrities. Like imagine having a hit song, #1 song. And as time goes by, somebody else has a #1 song.
Yeah.
You know?
You hear it all the time, oh, this guy fell off. What has he done? What has he put out lately?
What does that feel like for them?
Yeah.
Because I know what it felt like for me, and it wasn't a good feeling. Right? Trying to hold on to fame sometimes can feel like trying to hold on to water in your hand. You just can't. It feels nearly impossible to try to force it. You have to remind yourself of your why, like doing what you love, what's important to you. That's what needs to keep you going, not chasing the fame. And striking while the iron's hot, to me, is just another version of trying to just hold on to fame.
With that, man, I think there's so many like parallels, and it's a good segue into like what I sent you yesterday about what I wanted to talk about. I feel like within, like especially now in our society, men in particular, there's always a different measuring stick. Oh, well, what have you done? What have you accomplished? How much money are you making? This and that. You have to accomplish this laundry list of things, and then some. You still feel like you're not there, or you're not doing as much. And what do you see in that? Like what kind of things do you see, and where are we going wrong with that? What can be changed? What can people tell themselves, especially men? Because I think men take it the hardest to, women as well. But what kind of advice or thoughts or opinions do you have on that? Because it's something I deal with every day. I'm sure Alex deals with every day. We all do.
What I would say is, I don't believe that laundry list is real. You know what I mean? I think it's something that's artificial. It's fabricated. And I think it comes from popular culture, the media. The challenge that I see is that social media doesn't have the same, it wasn't introduced with the same kind of warnings that TV was. We watch TV, it was don't believe what you see on TV. Social media doesn't have that same warning attached to it. So when we see on social media, we believe it. So this laundry list that we're talking about is really derived from social media. If you tell yourself that's not real, that's step A in not trying to live up to an unrealistic expectation. That's step one. Secondly, you have to be the best version of you. And what that looks like for you is different than what it looks like for me. I think we get so caught up in trying to be other people that, again, that we see in the media and on social media. I think you have to decide, what does the best version of you look like? You know, you and I do different things. I'm a content creator. I'm a speaker. I'm into fitness. Those are the things I'm into. How do I be the best version of myself in those spaces? Versus you know, you work with youth, you do other things. How do you be the best you in those spaces? I think those are the questions that you have to start asking yourself. You have to start looking at me versus me rather than looking at it me versus some unrealistic person that I saw online.
Right.
I think that's the challenge. We just get caught up in what's out there.
And I like what you said, when it's not real. Like those things that we think are the measuring stick to what it means to be successful, that isn't really what it is at all. And I think a part of it too, for men, I think there is an aspect of, well, I need to be doing these things and accomplishing these things to find a woman, right? When a woman comes into the mix, into the equation, then it gets a little, oh shit, I'm not doing enough. And there is a subgroup of women that look at that and be like, well, how much is he making? Because they see that side of it too on social media. Well, oh, if he's not making 200, 300K a year, or he doesn't have 3 Ferraris, or this and that. And what you're saying is, in the reality, in real time, in the present, that's not what's actually happening.
No, and on the other side of it, it's like, yeah, women are seeing the same content. You know, well, that's what I want. But again, if we're being real, what is the average salary in our country? You know what I mean? Like, it's well under 100,000. So like the expectations of women to be only attracted to the top 1%, again, it's just not realistic. Most men don't make the money they're looking for. 99% do not. So it's like, even for them to set their expectations that high, it just doesn't seem realistic. Right? So it comes a point where they either have to change their expectations or they stick with it and play the long game. But for me, it's like, we can't try to put ourselves in this artificial world, our artificial world of comparison, and trying to be something that is almost unattainable. I don't want to say it's unattainable, but it's just not what most men are. You have to set realistic goals, right? And it's like, what is realistic for you? That's something that you really have to evaluate. And I think sometimes we don't. We just get caught up in, again, what is out there.
It's hard, man. I mean, when you follow Drake on Instagram, it's just, I always bring up Drake because, yeah, he's so unrelatable when you look at his posts and the things he does. And sometimes you get caught up in like, well, he is, of course, super successful. So anything less than that is, I ain't shit. But it's like, the guys like that, it's just, they're so unrelatable that you kind of have to convince yourself, well, okay, like that's just the one in 10 million type thing, right? And it's toxic to like get into that, like, well, fuck Drake, look at this person, look at that. Oh my God, like it takes you down this spiral and I personally been down that spiral, so.
But the thing just to like interject there for a second is that I think sometimes we look at what they have only on the surface level. So like, when we look at Drake, he has many other attractive qualities that we can all be inspired by, that are beyond just how much money he has. Is it his confidence? Is it his emotional intelligence? Is it his style of communication? Is it the way he dresses? Is it the way, there's so many things to be inspired by Drake other than the money he makes. And I think, to your point, women are attracted to certain characteristics in men beyond money. Like on the surface, you think, oh, they just want my money. But it's like with more money comes more problems. So it's like money is not the only thing in a relationship. Does it make things easier in some ways? It can. But it's like, there's so many situations where I heard about women. I've met so many women that used to date rich men, and they find out that the man wanted to control them, and it was a toxic relationship, and they thought the man thought they owned them. And it just turned into this whole messy thing, and they realized it's not about the money. It's about so much more than that. Some women have to go through that to understand it. Others don't. Others are just attracted to characteristics and quality in men. And one of them that's huge is confidence. In order to be confident, you have to be the best version of yourself. I always say self-confidence is derived by how many promises you keep to yourself. If you do the things you say you're going to do all the time, you'll be confident. That's where it comes from. But the money thing, everybody has money. It's not just supply and demand. It's not realistic for all women to be after this. It just isn't. And you got to tell yourself this because they're actually not. It's just what we see in the media.
I got you. When you just talked about your definition of confidence, why does that lead to confidence, sticking to the promises that you make for yourself? Like, can you expand on that? Why does that creating a habit and routine lead to more confidence?
Look at it like this. I always say when I talk about myself sometimes, I like to like pretend I could exit my body and treat myself as a friend. You and I are best friends. You tell me that you're gonna meet me at 6 o'clock today. I'm like, cool. You hit me up at 6 o'clock. You're like, yo, where are you? I'm here. I'm like, oh shoot, you serious? You say, yo, bro, tomorrow I'm gonna buy you. I got you on lunch tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, you got me on lunch. The next day you say, we're gonna go do something, and when we do it, I wanna now be confident in you as a friend because everything you say you're gonna do, you do it. I wanna have a deeper relationship with you because like now I can trust you. Oh wow, anything this guy says, he's doing it. I think the same thing comes to you. If you tell yourself you're gonna wake up at 5 a.m., you wake up at 5 a.m., you're like, yeah, I'm doing that. You tell yourself you're gonna go to the gym tonight and you go, yeah, I'm doing that. Everything you say you're gonna do, you do it. So now if I say, yo, I'm gonna make $1 million next year, you're gonna believe it because you do everything you say. That's confidence. It's doing something, say you're gonna do something and you're gonna do it. When we talk about Kobe tell you, next possession I'm gonna score on you. And he scores on you. That's confidence because that's how you train. So then that's how you play. It's no different from life.
With that, man, like with confidence, is there a bit of I've got nothing to lose energy? And what I mean by that is, for me personally, I create confidence for myself in times when I tell myself I have nothing to lose. You coming on this podcast, me doing this podcast thing every week, it gives me anxiety when I'm attached to the outcome. How many views does this get? This and that. How did this clip go? But when I'm in a place of, I seriously don't care. I've got nothing to lose, man. I've been through the worst. I've seen it all. Is there a bit of that in confidence? Because like what you said is, I hear you when you say, tell yourself, like you create these promises for yourself. And little by little, you start doing those promises and you start trusting yourself. And I 100%, I hear you on that. But I think, I don't know, could there be a bit of, I guess, pessimism in it where it's like, well, I'm just going to go for it. I don't give a fuck. If it fails, it fails. I've lost everything already. I've seen it all. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think that is actually a quote that was in my keynote. It was living for the action, not the outcome, right? And I think there's a lot of living for the action in there. You're doing something because you believe in it. You love it. It's aligned with your values. You want it. That's all you care about. Whether it succeeds or fails doesn't really matter. I go up and speak in front of a crowd. I could freeze up. I could embarrass myself. I could forget my lines. But that's a risk I'm willing to take because I want to inspire. I'm living to inspire. Whatever, if it doesn't go right, doesn't matter. If I missed that jump shot, it doesn't matter. I intended to make it. That's why I shot it. And I think, to your point, absolutely, you're right. I know that's deeply entrenched in your why. When you have a strong why, like why am I doing this behind your action, it becomes about the action rather than the outcome.
One thing, man, I want to ask you this, and you know, I want you to be completely honest about it. Like me looking at you, I feel like you've figured it out. You're doing your thing. You're a good-looking guy. You probably fucking slay. I ain't gonna lie. You do well for yourself. All right, let's be honest here. What are some things you get insecure about? Because I think coming from a guy like you figured it out. You've got fame. You're talking on these panels and these seminars. You probably make a killing with the women. Like when someone looks at you, I would say you're a guy that people look at and be like, fuck, I'm not where Tychon is. I'm not like, damn, this guy's really doing his thing. He's doing the damn thing. What are things that get you insecure? What are things that really get you worked up and question yourself?
When you ask me that question, it's one of those moments where I've asked myself, when people have, come up to me and told me how great I was, I've said in my head, I wish I loved me like you do. There's a lot of times what gets me insecure is that I actually I don't see the same thing that others are seeing in me. I don't see the same greatness. So many times where I don't see it. I feel like I'm an imposter. I feel like I don't deserve what I get. You know what I mean? Like that's what really gets me. I feel like the greatness people are seeing it's just not real. That's what's in my head. It's like there's a big gap between who you're seeing and who I'm seeing. Being on camera, scared. I want to show myself. I just never felt good enough. A lot of my life, I just, even from in school, I didn't have many friends growing up in school. I didn't have many people who I felt like genuinely loved me. So there's times in life I just don't feel like I have genuine love. You say, oh, you probably make a killing with women. I feel like it's true. It is true. But I also feel like sometimes my self-esteem was attached to that. How many women I could get or how many women I could talk to, my happiness was tied to that. So if I wasn't talking to any girls, I'm like, I'm unhappy. I'm sad. No one likes me, no one loves me. Right? So it's like, when you say, where do my insecurities come from? It really comes from me just not believing I'm enough. Me not feeling like I belong. Me being scared to be myself. And as a content creator, I think, and being in the public eye, it really magnifies, do you love yourself? And who are you going to be? Are you going to be someone that's just going to do what's trending? Be the person that people want you to be? Or are you going to be authentically you? And I struggle with it so much. Because there's things I want to say. There's things I want to do. There's sometimes, how many times I make a story, I'm like, nah, this is too much. I'm not going to post this. This could be people could take it the wrong way. People could be upset. I think that's, again, me being afraid to just be me.
That hits on every level, man. I mean, you probably don't know the answer, or it's a tough question, but how do you think you can get better at just loving yourself? I mean, just being okay with who you are, and how do you get over all of that? What are some things you've seen work for you? Because I feel like it's one of those things where it's a lifelong thing. It's a lifelong process for a lot of people, for me, for anyone. I mean, are you learning day by day how to navigate it? Be like, I'm having one of that moment, that self-esteem. I'm not talking to a girl. I know what's happening.
It's definitely, like you said, it's a lifelong quest, for sure. But I think the difference now for me is that before, it was like driving a car and hearing noises and just turning up the music and keeping on driving. Or now, I turn down the music and I'm like, what's actually wrong? What do we need to fix here? What do we need to address? I think for me, like, there's so many different little things that I've tried, that I've gone through. Like recently, church was one of them. Going to church, learning about my relationship with God, reconnecting. I think another one for me, therapy. Therapy's a big one for me. I see my therapist at least once a month, if not sometimes 3-4 times, depending on the month. I recently just got a coach, like a life and business coach. Another big one for me. Journaling. I think sometimes you have these thoughts in your mind and sometimes you need to just write them out, right? When you think crazy things or happy things or sad, like you write them out and you read them and it helps you put them into perspective, whether or not they're true. Gratitude, another one. My gratitude journal. Writing 3 things that I'm grateful for every day. Keeps you in the present, keeps you focused on the truth. These are the type of things that I do regularly that help. Talking to myself. I literally have to speak to myself sometimes. Be like, yo, you're great. Don't forget that. Don't let this post that you just saw make you sad. You're great. I have to say it out loud sometimes. But these are the type of things that help me. But it's a lifelong journey. Different tools and techniques are going to work at different times. Kind of like as you go out through life, like your diet's going to change. Like the workout regimen's going to change. These things are dynamic. I think it's the same thing with building a relationship with yourself. It's a lifelong lesson, but I work on it. You know? Like I'll be like, oh, am I just hitting a girl up right now because I'm lonely? Or is it because I actually want to hit her up? You know, these are questions I start to ask. I was never asking those questions before. I just be sitting there being like, yo, who could I call right now? Now it's more like, wait, are you just calling someone because you just feel lonely? Is that my vice? When I feel lonely, call a girl? These are the thoughts I'm now having. I wasn't thinking that deep before.
And that's a very vulnerable moment, asking yourself that. Am I doing this because I'm lonely or I really want to? Was that tough? Admitting to yourself, I'm lonely. I am lonely right now.
Telling yourself the truth can be very tough. So yeah, telling myself that was difficult. Because you try to just, when we feel pain, we just want to soothe it. We don't want to just feel it. And telling myself I'm lonely is feeling it. It's going through the emotions. Going through that energy and motion. Before I would just be like, yeah, brush it off. Do what I was doing. Turn up the volume, keep driving.
I don't want to feel this. What is this? Fuck.
No, I'm not trying to feel that.
Yeah. Speaking of relationships and women, are you single? You're single?
Yeah.
Yeah. How has your views and your values with women changed throughout your life? What do you look for?
I look for in a woman?
Yeah.
Energy is one of them. Like it's probably the biggest thing. It's literally like, how do I feel when I'm around you? It's one of those things that you just can't. I just trust the vibe someone gives off. They're high vibration or low vibration. I love a high vibration woman. Someone that walks in the room and it's just kind of like the energy of the room is uplifted. I think that might be number one.
Number one, yeah.
I also look for someone who's honest, vulnerable, open-minded, dynamic, able to change in different situations or adapt to different situations. Things that I think would make a good partner with me. Because I'm somebody that, you know, in life I just don't want to be one thing. I don't want to stay in one place. I like the idea of being able to do absolutely anything. I love the idea of my partner being able to do that with me. It's those type of things.
Have you gone to these things? Have you noticed these things because of going through the exact opposite of having someone with low vibration and not being honest and having the exact opposite experiences of the things that you just said? Is that how you got to this place, or?
Absolutely. I think if you would have asked me 5 years ago what I thought was important in a woman, it would have been a lot more, I don't want to say shallow, but a lot more specific in the sense that like someone who can cook.
Yeah.
Like I dated someone for years, not because they could cook, but that was like a big, they satisfied that requirement. Oh yeah, she could cook. This is huge. When I'm now looking back at it, I'm like, is it really that serious? She can't cook. We'll find someone to cook. You know, we'll find a way to get good food. I'll learn to cook. We'll do it together. Like, there's all these different ways that we could satisfy that requirement, but it's not as important as I once thought.
Right.
But yeah, like being through the opposite of being with someone who's closed-minded and being with someone who's, like I've been in a toxic relationship. So from understanding what made it toxic, it's like I don't want that. But it's not only the person's fault, it's my fault too. But also everybody comes in your life to teach you something. Every single person. And I think from that relationship, it taught me what I loved about it and what I didn't.
After that toxic relationship, and I don't, we don't need to get into the details of it, but did you ever grow resentment towards that person, or play victimization card on yourself. Well, fuck, why did this happen to me? I can't believe this person did this to me. I'm not worthy of love. This is all her fault. And just this growing resentment of, fuck this person. I wish this person didn't exist. Did you go through that?
I'm truly not that type of person. Like, I don't really resent people or wish I'd never met them or wish it never happened. I'm more of a, damn, that was hard, but we learned something from it. That's more my energy. So I've never really felt that toward anybody. Even if someone has done me dirty, it's never, oh, I wish I never met them and I resent this person. It's more like, if they did me dirty, and to a point where I can no longer have them ever in my life again or forgive. Well, I could forgive them because forgiveness is for you. But I would just never communicate with them again. But with my exes, it's never been to that degree.
Right.
Not on my end, at least.
Have you always been like that? It was never like, it wasn't one of those things where you kind of just developed into not growing resentment. You've always been someone that's just been.
Yeah, never been spiteful. I'm not that type of person. My friends call me soft for it sometimes. Like, yo, you're soft. You gotta, and I'm just like, I really just think holding on to these type of things is painful for you. Hating someone and resenting someone is energy that you're now carrying. I don't want to carry that type of energy. I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on the things in which make me happy, the things that are important, things that matter.
I think that's so tough. Like that right there, it sounds logical, right? Like, why would you hold on to something, create this darkness in your heart and have this resentment? But you'd be surprised, man, how many people, I mean, I've been there. I was recently I was in that place where I had this burning, like, fuck, like, this person did me wrong. I can't forgive them. I can't. There's like this part of, like, just this demon coming over me. And a part of it was anger and power. Like, but it drains you. At some point, I remember waking up one morning, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, my physiologically and my nervous system is shot. I can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. You know, you get to this place of just, life goes on. Do you think one of the biggest things, and I want to know your opinion on it, do you think most people are afraid to stand on what they say and really stand up and say what they want and really lean on it because they're afraid of losing people?
Absolutely. My coach and I were talking about this maybe a couple weeks ago. And it's like, he was telling me, he's like, if you're really going to stand on what you believe in, you risk losing people. You risk people calling you an asshole, mean, rude. That's a risk you take in order to stand on what you believe in. But if you believe in something, you have to stand on it. If you don't, you're just kind of just being blown with the wind.
How can someone get to that place? Because it's so much easier said than done, man. Because you tell yourself every day, like, yo, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to stand in what I believe. Even though the person I really care about, the person I really appreciate and love doesn't agree with me, I'm going to stand 10 toes down. But then when it comes to it, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, I get what you mean, yeah.
I'm definitely not there yet. I wish I was there.
Man.
It's not, getting there is not, and that's part of the reason I have a coach. Getting there is not easy. Standing on what you believe in, it's like you got to really be entrenched in what you believe in. You got to remind yourself of what you believe in all the time. To the point where something doesn't align with it, it's like, nah, no, I'm not doing that. You know, you tell yourself, like, I don't want to, it could be something as simple like, I don't want to be in the club. I don't want to go there. I don't enjoy it. It doesn't make sense. I don't want to drink. I don't want to spend money. I don't want to spend money there. I don't want to do any of that stuff. And when your voice goes, yo, we're going out tonight? You're like, no, I don't want to go to the club. Come on, bro. You're being soft. All right. It's just something as simple as that.
Yeah.
That would happen to me all the time. I'd be like, yo, it's not because I don't want to be in there. It's just like, yo, I got something to do in the morning. You know, I got something really important. Bro, come on, just for an hour. An hour turns to 2 hours. And you get lit. Now it's 4 a.m. You shouldn't have gone. You didn't stand on what you believed in. You're just dragged with the wind. Again, self-confidence, keeping promises to yourself. If you're just dragged on if you just carried with wherever the wind takes you, it's gonna really affect your self-esteem and self-confidence.
It's one of those promises.
See the link there? It's crazy.
Shit. I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, so many times. You're right, man. The next morning, you're like, fuck, man, why did I
do this? One thing my coach also says is play the tape forward. He loves movies. So he'll talk about, look at a decision that you're about to make. Play the tape forward. Okay, you say yes to going out. What's going to happen? Probably going to drink. Then what's going to happen? You're going to get drunk. Then what's going to happen? You're probably going to eat some McDonald's at 3 a.m. Then what's going to happen? You're going to be up till 4 a.m. Then what's going to happen? You're going to wake up at 7 a.m. tired as hell. You played the tape forward, and now you're like, nah, I don't want that. Never mind, I'm not going to make that decision. A lot of us, we kind of just like, I'll figure it out. Play the tape forward. Or treat your future self as a friend. What would your future you look back at you right now and say? Would they say, oh, bro, I wish we went out? Or I wish we stayed home? What would your future you say?
So simple.
But these are things you have to actually like practice doing. You know, there's times I do it. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes, YOLO.
Yeah.
And I guess there's times where sometimes you're just gonna be off the ball. Sometimes you gotta let loose and just.
You have your slip ups. I mean, it is what it is,
That's
right?
life. You're not gonna be perfect.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like, as long as you're getting incrementally better over time, I think that's the goal.
What are your thoughts on modern day dating right now? Where do you see a divide in men and women? Where with this whole toxic masculinity and alpha male, Andrew Tate, you know, and like what I said yesterday, is there a place in this world for nice guys? And I'm purely just bringing this up selfishly because I'm emotional. I am sensitive. I've tried to be that guy, the toxic fuckboy. I've had that phase. But for me now, man, I think it's a curse and a blessing, because the curse is when I am vulnerable. Maybe it's the women I pick, but they see it and they flip it on its back and use it against me. Where they're like, okay, figured Mo out. Let's fuck with him a little bit. It's this and that. And I'm in a place where it's just like, it's like I've lost a little bit of hope and faith in it. Where do you see an issue with that? This whole divide between alpha male, soft, sigma.
I think, simply put, I think every relationship is different. A lot of things are situation dependent. I think every relationship needs a balance of masculine and feminine energy on both parties' parts. You know, as a man, you're gonna have some feminine type of traits. You have some masculine type of traits. So will a woman, right? It's what balance works for your situation, for the people you choose, right? There are some women that want a man who's super masculine alpha. Like, I had a friend, and it was to the point where the women that he dated, it was like he paid for everything, he picked them up, he did everything, it was to the point where he would choose their outfit. Babe, this is what you're wearing tonight. And they loved that. But he knew that. And these women knew that too. And that's what worked for them. So it's like, again, the relationships are situation dependent, but what we see on social media is that people are idolizing one thing or pushing out one narrative as this is the way, right? And I just don't think that works. But one thing I will say, even with me, do nice guys finish last? I think so.
You think that, huh?
I just think, here's the thing about a nice guy. I like to think in terms of algorithms. Nice guys have qualities that when I hear nice guy in my mind, I'm thinking of somebody who's, emotional, sensitive. Those things I think are great. To be able to be a man and be able to be vulnerable and emotional, I think it's important. In most relationships, if that's what the balance calls for, absolutely. But along with a nice guy comes a level of predictability. And I just don't think women love a guy that's super predictable. Oh, I know he's going to have flowers for me on Valentine's. I know exactly what he's going to do. I don't think they like that. I think they like a little bit of, I don't know what he's going to do. And sometimes when you're a nice guy, you fall into the predictability category. I think if you're nice, you have a little bit of spice to you where, like, they don't know what you're going to do. They don't know what to expect. They don't know. Like, I think women just love a little bit of spontaneity, love a little bit of fire. Like, where is he? How come he didn't call me back? Like, I think, I'm not saying be toxic, but I'm just saying just a little bit of something that keeps their, like, the women just like, they like a little bit of spice, in my opinion.
Go out, make me think about what you're doing right now.
Yeah. And not in a way it's toxic, but in a way it's like, yo, you have your own life, you do your own thing. She can't predict you. They don't like that.
Have you had any experiences on that behalf or anything?
I've never been a nice guy.
Never been, huh?
No, I'm getting there. Like, I'm morphing into a nicer guy. I've always been like, yo, if you're not on my page, we're not doing this. That's always been my energy. I've always been like, well, I'm depressed, so what are we doing? That's how I've been.
What's the reaction been when you've done that? It's worked, right?
It works on certain women. It works on certain types of women who like that. Who like a man they want to submit to whatever their man wants. But what I find is sometimes they're submitting in the beginning, but again, it's not actually what they want. Over time, they don't want what it is that I'm offering. You know, I've had women be like, yo, I love basketball. We're watching basketball. Yeah, I love basketball. 8 months later, I'm watching basketball again? So you don't love basketball. You were just submitting in the beginning. In the end, it's not actually what you wanted. Everybody's agreeable in the beginning. But I find what wasn't working for me about those relationships, it was all about me. I was selfish in a lot of past relationships. I only really cared about what I was doing. I'll call you when I'm free. I'll do everything on my time. And I'm learning that that's not a relationship is. It's a partnership.
Why do you think you were that way? If you were to analyze yourself and diagnose yourself, I guess.
Why do I think I was so selfish in relationships? To be honest with you, I think it's because it's what I grew up witnessing. It's what I grew up around. I saw my dad be like that. I saw my friends be like that. I just was around people who were like, nah, I'm doing what I want. What are we talking about? That was just the energy I was around, so I was a product of that environment. So it was just very natural for me to be like, I'm not catering to a woman. You know, like there was a time where I was like, I have to pay for dinner? What are we talking about? There was a time where I actually thought like that. But now, like, if I take you out, you're not paying. Are you kidding? And I'm not saying that's how it has to be, but I'm definitely offering, being like, no, I got this. Come on. It's just the mentality has changed. I think I see women differently now.
What caused it to change?
Maturity. Definitely maturity. Like, I think now I'm thinking more of on like what I want in a partner. What a partnership should look like. How would I treat the mother of my kids? How do I lead a family? You know, how do I be a leader? Being a leader is empowering others. And I don't think, and it's only something that I've learned recently, is that empowering others is an important leadership quality. And in my life, to a lot of people around me, I am a leader. I didn't ask to be one. But it's just I'm seeing it naturally. There's a lot of leadership qualities that people come to me for things. People look at me for things. People expect things out of me. That's what it's become. So now the question becomes, how do I empower them?
Right.
How do I empower others?
What's a red flag for you? That's maybe subtle. It's not glaring. I guess not even what's a red flag now, but when you look back on your past relationships and the things that you've had to deal with, what are some things that you look back on like, damn, I really put up with that, even though it wasn't like in your face. Like she didn't go fuck my best friend or go cheat on me, but these are little pokes, and these little pokes over time, I didn't realize that it was wearing me out. Can you think of a few things like that?
Yeah. Not being able to admit you're wrong about something. You can realize, you can pick up on that really early in somebody. And they never told you a situation where they made a mistake. That's a red flag. Also, even something as little as in the early on stages, who's that girl? Who's calling you? Who's this? Who's that? Like, them trying to almost feel entitled to knowing what's in your phone, who's in your, like, the sense of entitlement early on, it's a red flag to me. Because why do you feel like you can go through my phone? Why do you feel like you can question certain things? And we just met. You know, it's a flag of, is this an insecurity? How is this going to manifest in this long-term relationship? And for me, I've seen situations where I saw that early on, ignored it, and then my girlfriend ends up being the type that doesn't want to do anything without me. I'm in a situation, where they want to do everything together.
You know what's interesting, man? It's funny because at the start of the episode, you were saying, there was a time where, there's moments where you attach your self-esteem and your happiness to a woman. Oh, I'm not talking to a woman. I'm not texting anyone. But you're saying now it's like you were with someone that wanted to be doing that with you all the time and being by your side all the time a little bit too much and having that sense of entitlement of who are you talking to, this and that, giving you all the attention. But it's not even, that didn't even, it turned you off to that person. It's like this like paradoxical thing where it's like we feel like, I don't know if you can attest to this, but you have this, I attach my happiness to this woman, I got to be talking to, but then when it comes at you full force, it's like, okay, this is getting a little too much.
I think when I was referencing that earlier, I think I was attaching my self-worth to not one woman, to the ability to have women, like how many women were giving me attention, So in that situation, even though this one woman was giving me lots of attention, I think I would have rathered some attention from many women than a depth of attention from one.
Got you.
That seemed to mean more to me. And again, it's that external validation thing. I just want to be validated by as many people as possible. Have all these relationships with all these people, these small versions of them, rather than having a deep relationship with one person. It seemed like that meant more to me.
What's the story? I don't know if you want to get into it, about the relationship you had, about this woman demasculinizing you for how much knowing you. Because I'm curious to know what that was and the dynamics.
The dynamic was, it was simply put, we met while I was starting my master's degree, and it turned into a long distance relationship. And she was working, I was doing school. And then when I graduated, I moved across the country to live with her. But obviously coming out of school, I didn't have the most money, but I agreed, I'd pay half the rent. But I worked near where we live, so the agreement was, we could share it. You don't need a car, babe. Let's share the car. Cool. So that was pretty much the situation where I was just starting my career. She was already working. She had more money, but we were sharing the car. And then one day, while I had the car, she got mad about something she saw on social media and told me to bring her car back. And I remember in that moment, I just kind of felt emasculated, because it was kind of like the narrative felt to me like, I make more money than you. I run this relationship. And now you've upset me. Bring my stuff back, when we agreed to share it. So it's like when you're mad, it becomes yours again, when we had an agreement to share something. And I get it. She was paying for it. I wasn't paying for it. We agreed to share it. And it's like, and then I said this on a podcast, and I saw the comments, and 99% of people were against me. And I was when I tell you I was super shocked by that, because I didn't understand. I'm hearing comments like, you're not a man if you're not the breadwinner in a relationship. You're not a man if you can't afford. You shouldn't have been in a relationship if you couldn't afford it. And I was just confused, because we all were aware. She was dating me aware that I was in university.
Both parties agreed to this.
Yes.
Yeah.
The dynamic worked. And the problem is, sometimes people like situational dynamics. Oh yeah, I'm cool with this till I'm mad, and then I'm going to switch up on you. And that's what it felt like to me, where it's like, when in any relationship, when people get mad and turn into a different, change the fundamentals of the relationship, it's one of those things where it's hard to trust people. It's hard to feel safe in those type of relationships. And I think whether we want to say it's emasculating or not, at the end of the day, I just didn't feel safe because of something like that.
Rightfully so.
And if you flip the gender roles for a second and said, okay, maybe, what if I was the breadwinner in the relationship, and I told her, babe, come live with me, and we live together, and I say, don't worry about paying for anything. You can just live with me. And then I get mad at her and change the locks. Would that be seen as okay? Like I would pose that question to those very same people because that to me would be the equivalent in reverse. You know, she lives with me for a couple months, and then I change the locks on her because I'm mad. Would that be seen as okay because I make more money? Like, relationships are not about money, you know. And some people try to make them be about money when that's just so surface.
Were there any signs leading for you to believe that she would switch up like that? Like, what did she see in that clip? Like, what was it? Someone talking to her in her ear about it? Was it someone? Like, what did she see? Why was it all of a sudden? Because it just sounds like it was very all of a sudden.
I just think the dynamic of our relationship became so toxic that we were just living in extremes. You know, I got mad at her and moved out. You know, it was just, our relationship just got to a point where we just didn't trust each other anymore. That's really what it was. And I don't think it was necessarily a red flags on her part or my part. Like, I made a lot of mistakes in that relationship. It definitely had rationale why she probably didn't trust me. But at the end of the day, we kept it going.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship didn't have trust anymore. It was toxic.
It's a whole Pandora's box with relationships, man. And it's something that, I don't know. It's I feel like a lot of people have no idea what they're doing, and especially during this time.
A lot of them go past their expiry date. A lot of people get into relationships for the wrong reasons, with the wrong people. I think that's a big thing. I think we're in a loneliness epidemic right now. And we're in a financial crisis too. So it's like for some people, it's easier to be in a relationship. They're not really in one because they really love that person and want to be with that. It's, for some people, it's just easier than being single. And I could see the attractive qualities. You're splitting stuff with someone. You're helping each other. Those are good reasons for some people. For me, it's not enough personally, but for some people, it's good. And some people are in relationships because they really found their person. It's out there. But there's a reason why most relationships fail or most marriages end in divorce. We gotta ask ourselves why.
One thing before we end, I want to talk about, and it's it kind of goes hand in hand. Well, it does go hand in hand in mindfulness, and I know that's something you're very dialed in on. And I want to bring it back to when, you know, the times that you feel lonely, because that is mindfulness and awareness in that moment of thinking to yourself, I am feeling lonely right now. I am feeling insecure. And this is what it is, and I'm in it now, and I just need to go through it. Is that what mindfulness is? Because there's so many different, like, these apps and this and that, coaches telling you what actually is it? What is it for you? And in that moment, for example, of you feeling lonely, is that mindfulness?
Absolutely. I'd agree with that. Mindfulness to me is living in the present. Humility. Able to assess your thoughts, assess your feelings, and go through them and work through them, to tell yourself the truth, to change something that you don't like. That to me is mindfulness. That humility, to just be like, wow, this is painful. Like, was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago? I remember I think it was a long weekend. And I was just super sad and lonely. I felt low, and I just sat with it. Never done that before. Just sat with it. Sat with the pain. And then tried to either assess why. Well, I did try to assess what it is. Why am I feeling this way? What is triggering this? And I realized it was a long weekend. I didn't see my family. And it wasn't just the fact that I didn't see them. There was no inquiry from anybody about, what are we doing this weekend? I just remember sitting in my condo by myself. It wasn't my friend. Nobody hit me up. My friends didn't hit me up. My family didn't hit me up. And then I had to question, like, why do they have to hit me up? But I was telling myself, I guess no one cares. No one wants to see me. No one wants to do anything with me. And again, I had to process these thoughts. What's making me feel this way? And I came to a conclusion that I have to tell people in my life what I need, or ask them for what I need. And if it's what I need is to see them and spend time with them, it's okay if I ask too. Hey, it's been a long time since we did something together. Can we do something? It's not something I've ever faced. You know, and in this moment, it was a weird feeling for me. I felt low, but I sat through it. Analyzed it. When there was a time where I'd just be like, I'm just call it go over. Drown out this noise.
No matter how uncomfortable it got, you committed to sitting through it. No matter how comfortable, physically too, like that feeling of fuck, someone's like sitting on your chest.
I cried. Sometimes I feel like you just need a good cry. Put on that episode of Fresh Prince where Will's dad leaves.
That's rough.
That one got me. Sometimes I need to, and that one made me cry. And there's another thing that I watch for a good cry is Craig Sager tribute. You ever seen that before?
I haven't seen the tribute, but
Where Ernie gives Craig Sager like a tribute. Like it's a 4-minute video. It just talks about Craig Sager, like how all the NBA players loved him, and and how the only thing you can't get back in life is time. And it's so beautiful. But it's like I just needed a good cry, and I felt like the energy came out of me, because I was in pain. I'm lonely. I'm sad. I'm hurting.
man, I love how you just said you cried. I think more people should cry when they feel that. I cried the other day. I needed to. There was literally nothing else I could have done. And it's just, there's this weight that just comes off. And I'm very glad, I'm very happy you said that.
It's literally, that's mindfulness. The ability to do that, to be that present. I cried on stage this weekend, doing a keynote speech. And it's like I practiced it. I never cried when I practiced. What I was talking about, it brought tears to my eyes. I couldn't believe, like it just happened. I got choked up. Tears were falling down my face because I was speaking from the heart in that moment. That is mindfulness.
I appreciate you, man. This has been good.
No, I really appreciate you too, man. I needed this. I really enjoyed this. I could see you being a social worker therapist for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Best compliment ever. Thank you, my man. Thank you. We'll call it. Peace.